Good afternoon. Welcome to the Freedom to Play Summit 2021, proudly brought to you by Global United FC, the world-famous global football team. We love football. We love our planet. Very proud to also have the Friedrich Naumann Foundation sponsoring this event. I'm your host, George Dernelly, a very proud ambassador of Global United, also a former Bafana Bafana player and the founder of the Football Magic Foundation. Today we're going to hear from some of the top administrators, officials, former players and current players involved in women's football. We have a whole host of stars from Southern Africa, and we're also very fortunate to have a former German Football Player of the Year on this panel. Nobody gets stronger by playing against weak teams. In this summit today, we hope to share some of the wisdom, some of the experience of these top officials so we can all learn from each other. How do we get better? How does Southern African women's football take its place on the global stage? By the end of the summit, I think we'll have some of the answers. Just like to welcome Inge Herbert. She is the Regional Director of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Southern Africa, and she will give us some nice opening words.
A warm welcome on behalf of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom Africa to the Freedom to Play online summit. How would we all love to be together on the field, to meet, to play, and to bond. Nevertheless, we at the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom are very happy to partner with Global United FC Africa Foundation in this online summit. We love freedom, and we support organizations and people who fight for freedom and who enable freedom in the social, in the economic, and in the political field. We believe in freedom, human dignity, freedom for all people. The realization of freedom rights needs strong, empowered, and responsible women and men. This is why we support the Female Empowerment Program of Global United FC Africa Foundation, which is organized together with a wide range of local organizations in Namibia and Southern Africa. Sports, especially soccer and other team sports, empower young people to build skills and empowerment which are so important in our lives today. This is team spirit, resilience, discipline, endurance, the spirit of competition, the purpose, and a goal to score many goals. Furthermore, sports and sports-related programs have a high potential for creating jobs and enable women to participate in positions in society. On behalf of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, I wish you all a fruitful, playful, successful summit, reuniting individuals and team players for a common goal, the freedom to play and grow, to be empowered together to create and benefit from opportunity, participation, and development. Thank you very much for your attention.
Now I'd like to introduce you to someone you might know of. She's recognized as the lady who built organized football in South Africa. Quick story about my friend Fran, Hilton Smith. Fran, in the early days, was on a bus in West Africa with a team of the first crop of South African women's footballers, driving through the jungle late at night, and she looked across the bus and all she saw were frightened faces. And Fran made a decision that night to be the strong one, to be the leader on that bus, to show no fear. And that's something that we all know on the football field, you never do. You show no fear. Since that day, Fran has shown no fear. She truly is the epitome of leadership. We're honored to have her on this summit today to share some of her wisdom, her knowledge, and her 30 years experience of running women's football in South Africa. Welcome, Fran. Fran, it's always good to see you again. If you can give us an idea of the current ranking of some of the African teams, who are the leading nations in women's football in Africa, and what makes them strong? Why are they in the lead?
Well, George, it basically all comes down to how often you play and how well you do. So, of course, the nations that have been playing the most have been there the longest. Nigeria sitting on 39. That's where they ranked. Cameroon 51, South Africa 53, Ghana 60, Cote d'Ivoire 63. So it just it varies as the teams play. There's just been a big tournament now in Nigeria, which finished yesterday. Thank goodness South Africa managed to beat Nigeria in the final. So that's going to bump them up a few places. But it all boils down to competition and how you do. And an example of what can happen was when South Africa lost to Botswana in the Olympic qualifiers. They dropped 50 points. So it really is important to do well in competition.
Fran, what do you think are the main problems of getting more and more women involved in football? How do we get more interest in women's football in Southern Africa?
Well, always the main point that always comes up is sponsorship. But I think issue that's always been around over the years has been the cultural aspects of girls playing football, getting involved in football. But I think now with many girls starting to play professional, making money, if we just look at South Africa, there's 19 girls playing professional overseas. Parents are starting to change their mind and wanting their girls to play because they can see a future in it now. And also, many women are getting involved in administration, coaching, which is also changing the landscape.
Do you think there's enough respect, enough support for women's football, both in the media and in the actual football association?
Media is the lifeblood of women's football. It's the lifeblood of any sport. And I don't think women get enough coverage, especially in many countries in Africa, for instance, and in the world, because men's football is always the focus. But for me, what I've found is trying to make good friends with newspaper reporters is a big help. And also, if you send them an article and a picture, you often find they're more willing to put it in the newspaper because they don't have to do any work. So we need more media coverage. If you want sponsorship, they want you to be in the media, social, whatever. So it's a crucial lifeblood of any sport.
Do you think the women who currently play abroad can have a bigger role in terms of being role models and getting more and more girls involved in local football?
I think that's a crucial aspect you're raising, George, is that now with numbers growing, the women that we have playing overseas in the top clubs, Barcelona, AC Milan, your SC Sats, your Tembis, your Refilwis, I think we need to ensure that those women become role models and are highly publicized so that it attracts young girls back home to get involved in the sport by seeing and witnessing and being spoken to by these top professional women players now, so that they can be encouraged to join the game and get involved in it.
When you look at the future of women's football in Southern Africa, what gives you the biggest hope to bring it to the next level?
Well, top of the list that we have now, and daily more players going to ply their trade in Europe. This is crucial. And that we have more competition. And I think just of late, I can talk about the Asha Bukuri Cup in Nigeria. It was a huge opportunity for nations to play. We got starting in now September, October, the women's COSAFA tournament in Goalkeeper, where all the top teams in the south will be playing. So competition is something that is crucial. We've just had the Champions League, which was always a dream of mine. And what I always pushed for on the CAF technical committee was to have a women's Champions League. And now it's happened. And we just had the COSAFA one, the South African team Sundowns went through. They've had the one in West Africa, East Africa. And next month in November will be the African Champion League, where we will find the best team in Africa to go and play in the FIFA Champions League. So this is really a dream come true for many of the teams, the players, myself, and it's taking women's football to the next level because the teams are playing and sponsors then look and see, okay, they're playing, they're on TV, they're out there, let's get involved.
How important do you think organized football in Southern Africa is to take it to the next level?
Players playing in leagues is absolutely essential because that's where they compete. And it's only by competing that you get better and get recognized and get scouted. And the Hollywood bet's coming on board now for the South African Major League is so crucial because it brings more money into the game. There's bigger prize money. The girls are getting kits to wear and all these basics that are essential to ensure that the game grows and develops. And so that we can one day hopefully have a league like they have in Europe, top class, where the girls are playing professionally, where they get money, so that our players don't have to go overseas to make money. They can stay at home and play in a professional league. So presently still the women's football is fairly amateur. There's not many clubs who pay their players. But we hope that with like Hollywood coming in, it will inspire other people to come so that one day the players can make a living at a football in South Africa or in a place in Africa.
Can you imagine that there will be this league anytime soon where the ladies earn enough to just play football, full-time professional football?
That's the big dream, George, I think, is to have that situation. And there's no reason why we can't have it. It's just a case of people going out there, officials, people looking for sponsorship. You need to have designated people at the federation, in clubs, in government, going out to the companies in South Africa and appealing to them to come on board to sponsor these leagues so that we can have the ideal situation of a girl playing, making a living here in South Africa without having to go and play as it is happening at the moment overseas. But it's going to take a lot of work from people who are experts in marketing. And of course, given the COVID situation and how the economy suffered over the last period, it's a very difficult time to try and get this going. But we must be positive and we must keep pushing for that because it's the cherry on the top.
Fran, thank you very much for your insight, your wisdom. I hope we can all learn something from these answers so we can all help play a role in women's football.
Well, thank you, George, for those questions. They really are crucial. Thank you for your big interest in women's football. And let's hope that we can continue growing as we are faster and faster to ensure that South African women's football takes its rightful place in the world. We are a sleeping giant, but we're waking up fast.
I'd now like to introduce you to Dina Shitula. Dina is going to be doing her MBA next year. She studied in South Africa. She played for Cape Town Roses, one of the top sides locally. And she's now a committee member of the Namibian Women's Professional Soccer League. Welcome, Dina. Dina, what are the main regions where women's football is strong in Namibia?
Hi, George. Thank you for having me. So, from my perspective, the regions where football is strong in Namibia is the central region because it's the most developed in terms of football. And we've obviously have been playing football for a longer time within this region. And obviously, it's where the capital city is situated as well. We all know that Namibia has a very small population where the majority of people do live in Windhoek, which is in the central region. And then another region where football is quite strong is the Orongo region. That is Swakopmund as well. They have the same setup in terms of football. They have quite a few academies, and they've also been developing football for quite a long time. The other regions are still catching up.
What do you find are the biggest problems running a female football club in Namibia?
The first thing is definitely the financial support. I know that FIFA's done such a great job quite recently with the trying to support women's football, just in general, women's football more financially. And that obviously trickles down to the football associations within the different countries. So I think just even not just running a women's football academy, just running a women's football club, it's always the financial support that we really, really need, that we don't really get a lot of. And then because when the resources needs to be shared, the men always come first and the women always get, the little bits that are left. And even in terms of, if you look at women's football and men's youth football, or the male youth football, the youth football for men still get more funding than the women's football. And then I think just in general, when you look at the players also need a lot of support. So if you look at the salaries, the wage gaps between women's football and men's football, in Namibia, we still don't have a professional league for women. So there's no female footballer who can actually live off being a football player in Namibia. And then just general support from family and friends. I mean, there's still a stigma around women playing football. It has improved over the years because of marketing, and obviously the more people see women playing football, the less they will think, they won't have those negative ideas about women playing football, but just people don't really think it's important for women to play football, and we really need to change that narrative so that people can actually support us.
How do you feel about playing in the Women's Soccer League?
Our Women's Football League, the one that I play, is the top league in Namibia for women. So obviously, I'm quite happy to be playing in the top league with the best players. So I'm playing against the best players in the country. Look, it's always fun to play football, whether you're playing on a social scale or whether it's more competitive. But I'm quite a competitive person, and I think I'm still physically fit. So it makes me really, really happy to be playing against the best football players in the country.
How important is the funding by the investors and by the club owners in the Women's Soccer League?
Our league would not exist without funding and without significant funding, because as you know, Namibia is also a very small population. We are unable to sustain our league without additional funding, because we aren't able to attract huge fees when it comes to spectators watching us. It's really not enough. We're only a population of 450,000 in Windhoek, and we don't have a lot of people that are coming out to watch our games. So it's really difficult to have a self-sustaining league. So we do rely heavily on financial support, not only for the league but for the clubs as well. Otherwise, we really wouldn't be able to exist without additional financial support.
Are there any problems in getting good infrastructure for women's football teams, clubs, and academies?
This really relates to the previous question. It's definitely the funding. There's no way that we would be able to sustain just a team without significant funding. And then obviously, when you look at infrastructure, in terms of our country, Namibia, we already have a problem with infrastructure just for football in general. And as I said before, the women really get the back end of importance when it comes to football. So most of the stadiums and most of the fields are sort of allocated to men's football, and men's football clubs and teams have a better financial standing than the women's clubs and teams. So they are able to pay and sustain their fields and their stadiums. And even if I look at something like our national stadium, I don't know if you're aware, but FIFA has just declared our national stadium unfit for any of our international games. So even if you look at a national level, we have a problem with proper infrastructure and proper fields. And if women are already at the back end when it comes to receiving the proper attention that they need in terms of women's football and the development of football. So if you can see that on a national level, it's already a problem. You can just imagine how much worse it is for women's football, for women's clubs, and for women's teams.
What do you think about the quality and the challenges of the Namibian Football Association's Women's League?
I think our biggest problem is that our football association, like all the other football associations in the world, focus more on men's football. Okay, but if I look at countries like, say, for example, like the United States of America, where although the men are still getting paid more, but the women are actually doing a lot better in women's football or in football, it shouldn't be that way. So I think the biggest challenge is that we need women running women's football. It's difficult where we fall under the umbrella of an association that is run by men, because I feel like an association that is run by men concentrates mostly on men's football. So I would like to see FIFA changing things in a way that women are able to run women's football and have the same amount of power that the men have in their associations to run women's football the way that we think women's football should be run. And in that way, we can give more attention to the challenges that we face in women's football, apart from finances, because I think finances is one of the biggest things. If FIFA maybe changes the way that the FA, or how money is received by the FA and how money is spent by the different football associations in terms of concentration on women's football and men's football, I think that would be a good starting point.
What is your hope when it comes to the future development of female football in Namibia? What would you like to see in the next 10 years?
We really need to concentrate on the challenges that we do have. As I mentioned before, if we let women run women's football, and if the associations let us run women's football and concentrate on things that women's football are facing, rather than the association trying to run both men's and women's football, I think we have different challenges. And I think if we have people that are concentrating on the different challenges for men's football and women's football, that's something I'd like to see. For example, grassroots football. And when I say grassroots football, I don't mean the level of professionalism. I mean starting girls football from the ages of 6. We don't have that here in Namibia yet. We don't have a league for under 12s. So I would really like to see us start grassroots football and developing girls at a young age, so that when they are older, we're focusing on different things in terms of football. And that's just the playing side. I'd like to see more of a financial injection into women's football from the different associations and from FIFA as well. I see they have done a great job in increasing that. The World Cup as well, we've increased the amount of teams that can participate. We've increased the amount of, and specifically for me, it was nice to see that the African teams, we can send more African teams to the World Cup. CAF has increased the amount of competitions. So we'd also like the opportunities to play more football, opportunities to be able to make a living of football. So definitely a financial injection, and just the development of women's football. I'd like to see a great change there.
Dina, thank you very much. We wish you everything of the best with your MBA next year, and we look forward to the role that you will continue to play in the development of women's football, both in Namibia and in Southern Africa. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great being on the show. And I'd like to see what we can do further to improve the development of women's football here in Namibia.
Our next speaker is a good friend of mine, Kailyn Swat, currently the number 1 choice goalkeeper for South African women's national team, Banyana Banyana. Kailyn's had a remarkable story over the last 5 years. 2016, playing in the Olympic Games in Rio, playing in the Under-17 World Cup, and in 2019, achieved the dream of playing in the Women's World Cup in France. It's great to see you, Kailyn. I can't wait to hear your stories. Kailyn, you've come a long way in a short space of time. Do the people in the community recognize you? Do they know the lady who made it to the FIFA World Cup in 2019?
So France 2019 was an experience I cannot put into a lot of words, only because you have to be there to know exactly, what it's like. And, I get this question so often, asking how it was and what the experience was like. And it was overwhelming at first. It was unreal. I couldn't believe, it took us so long to qualify for the World Cup. We tried year in, year out. We've been through so many cycles. And to think that we made it to 2019 was honestly something that we didn't see coming. But obviously that was our goal and our hopes and dreams, to really get to a World Cup in some point in our lives. And, there were some of our players that were ready to retire and, call quits on their career. But that just gave everyone so much hope and, courage that, yes, we took so long to qualify, but it actually happened in 2019. And I think that was probably the best year we've ever had as a national team. And, coming from a small town, it's crazy because, there's so much on your shoulders and people really look up to you, especially the kids that I grew up with and, playing in the street with the boys. And still today, everyone still talks about Banyana at the World Cup and, what joy it brought to the people from my community and, my family and friends, and seeing me out on the big stage. And I've been to the World Cup for the Under-17 national team. So, and obviously I was still a kid that time. I was only 15 and, the occasion didn't really sink in at that moment. But when we got to France, everything changed. The environment, the way we were treated, the professionalism from everyone, not like, the people, even the TLOs or, the volunteers that were there. The way they spoke to us and how they treated us really made us feel like this is where we belong. And, I've always had the support of my community, and I cannot thank them enough for, being my support and that backbone that, when things are tough, when the chips are down, they're there to lift you up. And my family is honestly my biggest supporters. My parents played soccer when they were young. So, they're basically living their dream through me. They never really got to that point in their lives. And I have a younger brother that still looks up to me. And he played soccer for a little bit, but he never really took it as far as I did. And, so it's always a great feeling to know that I have people, in my corner that really support me no matter what happens. And it's crazy to think that when I came back from the World Cup, the airport was filled with family and friends and people that, I grew up with or grew up in front of. And so they've always supported me and they've always shown their love. And, because from a small town, not many make it out. And for me, that is, motivation in itself. And they always look, if things are down, when people are sad and lonely, they think about, the happy moments. And, for me, being where I am and they see their life or they see like hope through me. And that just gives me a totally like a crazy feeling, just knowing that, I have these people that are looking after me, and that just makes me want to, do more and be a better person, be a better player. So, I couldn't have thanked the people from where I'm from my hometown, and, I can't thank them enough for supporting me.
What support did you get up front from SAFA before you had that main qualifying match for the FIFA World Cup? Were you guys promised anything extra if you made it, or was the deal done before that match?
So SAFA, as a whole, they have really, really stood behind us and really backed us in terms of, preparation and making sure that we have enough games leading up to, qualifying for the World Cup. And, so when we have to qualify for the World Cup, we go through the AFCON qualifications. And so you got to play home and away games. And so there's a lot of games leading up to the actual tournament. And then obviously the top three teams go to the World Cup. And so in hindsight, yes, we didn't have much of, games like other countries have when they play, for every international break they would play. But we are not that fortunate to play, top countries year in, year out. And for us in 2019, SAFA really, really pushed that we have the necessary, preparations in place. And they really made sure that we had the games to prepare us to go into the AFCON. And, yes, we would have loved to win the championship. I mean, we'd love to be number one in Africa, and but we fell short, and we third in Africa right now, and we're really pushing for that number one spot. But in terms of the support that SAFA has given us like I said, we can only thank the support we have, and for them to really step up and make sure that we are taken care of, and we qualify and we play, in huge tournaments. And so, yes, we missed out on the Olympics. That was a pretty tough blow for us, but going to the World Cup has really shown that, SAFA is really backing women's football in our country. The development has been better, over the past few years. We have a lot of young girls coming through the ranks now. And so that shows that there's growth in our football in our country. And, SAFA is our head body, and they make sure that, all the structures are in place for us to perform at our best. And when it comes to the financial standpoint, our country is not the most lucrative when it comes to women's football. So it's always tough to talk about the finances and, the backing when it comes to giving us a bonus or, being paid to play. And so it's always a hard conversation to have, only because women's football is not really up there with other countries per se. We're always gonna fall short when it comes to, the financial standpoint. We know our male counterparts are earning a lot of money, but we achieve so much. But the equality is always going to be there. We can only hope and pray that things change, and that with all the success that we're having right now, that they really see that we are here to stay, and that we are pushing the boundaries and keeping our standards up. But when it came to the World Cup and talking about bonuses and money and all of that, there was a lot of promises, but it wasn't outright and said, listen, we'll get X amount of money, all of that. But yes, we weren't compensated the way we should have been. But I mean, things are definitely changing now. And since the 2019 World Cup, they've really, really shown that they are trying to, get sponsors on board and get people to back us and to really, really give us what we need and what we deserve as a country and women playing for the national team.
How did your family and friends react? I mean, when they heard that you were in the squad for the FIFA World Cup, did you get like a whole lot of messages? What happened?
My phone was, I think my battery died the minute I put my phone back on after that, the game we played. But, my family, like, they are honestly the best people. Not just my parents, but my extended family. everyone played sports, but they never really, made it to the level that I'm at. Everyone played provincial football or cricket, and for me to play for the national team and go to the World Cup is honestly probably the best achievement in my family, and they really, really held me up on a pedestal, and still today they praise me for everything that I've achieved. And with my family name is pretty big in our town because my family is so big. So everyone knows where I come from and who I am and who my parents are. And my grandparents were pretty involved in the community. So I've always had, people to look up to. And now people are looking up to me, which is still crazy and still overwhelming to think about. And, having that pressure on your shoulders and knowing that, whatever you do, there's people watching. And so my phone went crazy. My parents, when they watched the announcement on TV, they actually called me. I didn't even know that I made the squad. They knew before I did. And so when they called me, they were crying. They were so happy. They were ecstatic. I was like, why are you crying? Little did I know that I was going to the World Cup, and so that was, for me, that was probably the best feeling I've ever had. When you graduate high school, when you graduate college, it's a great occasion. But for me, going to the World Cup was always a goal in my football career. And for that alone, it was a crazy feeling. I was so excited. I just couldn't wait to get on the plane to go to France at that moment. And so yeah, it's been awesome. And still, like I said, still today, they still praise me. They still, hold me at, on a pedestal. And it's wild. It's really crazy.
What changed the most in your life? Firstly, as a person, but also as a player, both at club level and in that Banyana team after the 2019 World Cup experience? What was the biggest change?
A lot has changed. I can admit that there's a lot of change in women's football, in the national team, with everyone's mentality. And our goals and dreams have really shifted to really wanting to be at another World Cup, another Olympics, and winning AFCON next year. And so there's a lot has changed individually as a team. Personally, for me, a lot has changed. I'm really now focused on making the next World Cup, and playing, and being a regular and starting for the national team. So a lot mentally has changed, and for the better. Change is always good. Change is tough, but it's good. And I think our federations also really shifted their focus from the men to us as women and Banyana, and because we are really pushing the boundaries, like I said in the previous conversation. And for us to see the change in the people's view of women's football, and people actually wanting to watch us play. And when we play on TV, the viewership has changed a lot. We're getting so much more support, and people actually want to watch us now, and they're really involved. And our social media presence has really skyrocketed. Like, all of us are now role models, per se, if I could put it that way. A lot of the kids at the development structures, and a lot of the kids, we walk out in the street and they see us and they recognize us without our uniform, which is something that never really happened before. We were always only seen with our uniform on, and people recognize us. But if we're out in the street, just in our regular clothing, then, we'd be walking as normal people and people wouldn't recognize us. So that has changed. And that is really something that we are really taking pride in. We've really pushed ourselves out there. We really put ourselves out there, and as a national team, and so yes, a lot of the girls, some of them was the first time at a major tournament, and for them, obviously, we've got a lot of contracts abroad from the World Cup, and so there was a lot of recognition. Everyone saw that South Africa is here to stay, and they really saw that there was talent in Africa. So yes, like I said, change is good, and we are really on the upward end. We're not going to stop there. Yes, 2019 was great, but that's not the end. That was only the beginning of us, and a lot of the players are playing abroad right now. I think we have about 10 or plus players out in Europe, and that's only because of the showing that we had at the World Cup. And so major tournaments is really a platform for us to be seen, and for the scouts and teams in Europe to see us, and that we're not just good enough to play locally and in the club structure in South Africa, but we're good enough to play in Europe. And in terms of the club football, we have a league now that's it's semi-professional, which is something that we've always dreamt about. And Sasol has always been around, and so for them to really be sticking with us for 10 plus years is something that you never really see happening. A sponsor being around for so many years, and really showing their interest, and giving their support wherever they can. And so the Hollywood Bets League now is really something that we've all been dreaming about. And I want to say 80% of the national team now is from the Hollywood Bets League, which is great because now we're playing week in, week out. We're playing competitively every weekend. And, so it's really something that we could have only dreamt about a couple years ago. So France really, really, really showed us that we can, and we will, put ourselves out there and for the world to recognize us.
Have you seen a boost for the SAFA Sasol Women's League after 2019?
Yes, absolutely. The Sasol League was honestly the only competitive league that we had at the time, going into 2019 and qualifying for the World Cup. And there was only a few teams that was really up there, the top 3 teams or top 4 teams that were great, and that you had 4 or 5 competitive games, and the rest, everyone was still trying to level up to those top teams. And it's unreal how much our football has grown in the country, and individually the players have grown, and they've really showed the commitment and the discipline, and to really up their game, because the Sasol League alone was not enough. So we always had to do more. And now with the Hollywood Bets League, it's just testimony for us to say that yes, we all started at the Sasol League, but now we have a semi-professional league with Hollywood Bets League, where they are really trying to push the professionalism in our country. And hopefully in the next couple of years we'll have a fully professional league running, and things would be even better. But even now, since it's just been 2 years, there's such a huge difference in the level of play, and the skill and the mindset and the mentality of the players that has grown a lot, because now the national team actually has a huge pool to choose from. Instead of just 4 or 5 teams to choose from, now there's 16 teams in the league, and all of these players are good enough to be in the national team. And so it's all about the individual wanting to be there and wanting to commit themselves to be successful. But yes, the Sasol League has really grown, and the Sasol League really helped us to get to where we are today. So the Sasol League is still running, so that's great, because that also gives teams in the Sasol League the the motivation to want to be in the Hollywood Bets League, where the competition is bigger, the level is higher. So, and it takes a lot more commitment and discipline to get to the Hollywood Bets League. So that also gives the coaches of the national teams, and not just the senior national team, but the under 17s, the under 20s, it also gives them an opportunity for the young kids to be seen by these coaches. And so, yeah, it's unreal how much the football has changed, and how much the girls have really committed themselves to wanting to be the best, and to show their skills, because we all want to play overseas, and to get there you got to be in the national team first. So it's really great to see that there's so much development happening. A lot of the young girls really want to be push football and make it their career.
Would you like to stay in football after your playing career ends? And if so, which sector would you like to work in?
I would hope that I have a lot of years ahead of me still. Goalkeepers only mature at around 30, 35. So I want to say I have at least another 5-10 years to go if my body allows me. But no, I really, football is my life. This is all I know. Yes, I tried to play some cricket. I did athletics. I did quite a bit. I tried rugby, but it was just not for me. Football has always been my first love, and I love teaching the game. So I think once I'm done playing, I'll definitely be a coach, or I'll be something in football. But I have a passion for teaching too. So I'm in the process of getting my PGCE, which is the postgrad in education. I have a degree in sports management and marketing. So, I think schooling is very important. So I always encourage my kids that I coach, to not just look at football as a career, but as obviously you want to go to school and make sure that you have a degree to fall back onto, when football stops, or when, because, anything can happen. Injuries happen, life happens. So it's always important to have a backup plan. And for me, school is definitely like teaching, whether it be in the classroom or on the field, is what I'm passionate about. And I think when I get older, I'll start, development school, or get involved in developing goalkeepers, because that's really, it's really a delicate position for us, and especially for women. There's not many development structures for goalkeepers in place at the moment. And I think since now that I'm grown, and I really see that, development is a problem, and especially for my position, which is a goalkeeper, it's really hard to find great goalkeepers at the age of 10, so, and grooming them until they 15, 20 years old. And so that's what I'm looking forward to when I'm done playing, because I really love seeing the potential in a lot of kids. And goalkeeping is not the first position that kids want to join. Everyone wants to be a striker, wants to score goals. No one wants to save the goals. So I think for me, it's just to show the kids that there is a career in being a goalkeeper. There is there is progress to get to higher levels of great teams. You don't necessarily have to be a striker to make it big. So I think a lot of the kids have the mentality of just wanting to score goals and being the star. But I think the goalkeeper is the most important position. Without a goalkeeper, the team doesn't function. So I think that's definitely something that I'll go into. But like I said, I'm probably always going to be involved in sport, and whether it be cricket, soccer, rugby, it doesn't matter. Sport is what I love to do. That's my passion. And if I'm not at home, hanging out, or if I'm not on the field, I'm watching football, I'm watching cricket, I'm watching F1 now. So I follow all sports, and so that's definitely something that I have a passion in. And they said if you don't have a passion for it, don't do it. So but that's all I know. So that's definitely what I would be doing.
Kailyn, everyone I know who talks about you says you're enthusiastic, your smile can light up the room. You've had a great career to date. You've still got many years to go. It's lovely to have someone like you involved in this summit. We can only wish you that your career goes from strength to strength, and I look forward to playing a role in your career going forward.
Thank you guys for having me. This was really a great chat to have. I think a lot of people can take a lot of positives away from this. I don't come from much, but what I have, I've really worked hard for. And I always encourage the kids that I work with or kids that I see when they always ask, what did you do to get where you are? And I always say, hard work never killed anyone. If you're passionate about something, follow it, follow your dreams, follow your heart. Don't let anyone tell you what to do. If you put your mind to it, anything's possible. And I always tell them to just, keep going, never give up. And I was in your shoes not too long ago, and, I've really followed my dreams. And I always tell them, impossible is nothing. Yes, it might be cliche, but it's true. Nothing is impossible. You can always work towards something, and always set goals for yourself, because once you achieve one, it's a great feeling, and then you just keep going and you keep building on that feeling, because and always do everything with the utmost confidence, whether you fake it till you make it. So yeah, if you have confidence in yourself, and then it will brush off and everyone will see that. And and do everything with a smile. I think we living in a really crazy time now, and you never know what someone is going through. So if you're smiling, you never know, that smile might just make the other person's day. So yeah, but thanks for having me. This was awesome. I just hope everyone stay safe and keep going, and let's conquer this world together.
Our next speaker is Jackie Goetzer. Jackie, amongst many titles and many awards, is a former national team player for the Brave Warriors. Jackie sits on the National Executive Committee of the Namibian Football Association. She's also a CAF and FIFA match commissioner, studied in Germany, studied her coaching badges in Germany, and she's now the program director, manager of the National Namibian Football Association Gals and Goals program. Welcome, Jackie. Nice to hear from you. Jackie, what have been some of the biggest challenges when you started the Gals and Goals project?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to share with you about the NFA Gals and Goals program. It basically refers to the Youth Football and Life Skills Development Initiative under the Sports for Development. I think you all know it's a global agenda that we use sports development now for beyond sport, a career path for our players. And in that light, it's more than just football. So if we had to introduce this program in 2009, there were several challenges before 2009 to, number one, put together a document that will actually speak to the issues that a girl child faces locally, internationally, not only in football, but in life, because our program is a sports for development approach. So those challenges came along with that questions that we had, that why is the game slow in development? Why are so few girls joining sports in general, and football even more difficult? So we look at those questions. As we are answering those questions, we find out more and more that there are issues and challenges that are bigger than football and that are bigger than sport. And that is the issue of equality for the girl child naturally in schools, not only in sports, but in life. the social issues, the traditions, the cultures that prohibits the girl child to join sport, especially when they are young. It's even more difficult to do that because they need to find some kind of a social status for being the girl child, and they have some very important tasks, especially in this part of the world, very important tasks that they have to fulfill every day in their life, at home, at school, wherever they are moving as a girl child. So we sit as friends very early already at the university thinking about how best to bring the girl child to the sport. And most of us running this program comes from different sports grounds, backgrounds of sports like hockey, netball, and so on. But there were very unique challenges in women's football. And that was the big thing of the game being seen as a male sport. And we decided not to address the issue of why somebody think it's a male sport, but addressing the issues, the real issues that a girl child faces. And that's the issue of getting access to sport without fear or intimidation. And then we'll put together a document that will then face these challenges for the girl child by taking part in football, using the power of football. I think you all know this is a big game. Anywhere in the world, you can go to an island, you can go to the biggest countries in the world, you can go to the poorest countries in the world. There's nothing that touches the heart of children the way football does. And I think we make use of that big thing to be able to address these issues of early pregnancy. And I think, Namibia is one of those countries with a low population, but with high level of infection for HIV and AIDS. And there was no better way to think about what are the best elements we should address than partnering with big organizations like UNICEF Namibia. And I think they had the knowledge of what is the best way to take this to the girl child by using football. And everything started there. And the biggest challenge in this regard then are the challenges of social evils. And then, of course, the stigma around girls playing football.
Could you give us some insight into the numbers of girls that have been participating, training sessions going forward? How many girls have made it into the national youth levels, into your structures through your program?
Yeah, we're very proud. If anybody asks that question, then we really feel proud as a country, as a football association, because working with organizations such as UNICEF Namibia, FIFA, which is our mother body, the World Football, CAF, the important things are data collection. How many people do we reach? What is the impact? That is actually more important, because the impact of the program speaks to the program vision. It speaks to the values that we wanted to highlight after 5 years, after 10 years. So when this question is asked, we really very quick. We can actually answer you in our sleep when it comes to what is the impact, what are the numbers that we have reached. Yeah, Namibia has under 17, under 20, and senior women's football teams that plays in CAF, FIFA, Olympic qualifiers, COSAFA, which is a regional international competition, which is a big thing in Namibia for us to be part of COSAFA competitions. Now it's the Champions League for women's football clubs. We were one of the countries that participated in the first ever Champions League with our champion club, the Tura Magic Ladies. So these numbers are growing and growing, even at a time of 2 years when we couldn't really play active football. In the Girls and Goals program, there were international participations of the Champions League team, and then there were the international participation of our under-20 team in the World Cup qualifier, and then our senior team in the World Cup qualifier. This makes us add more numbers to the graduates from the program. Our under-17 national team is 100% players from the Girls and Goals program. Our under-20 team until this year is 100% players coming from the Girls and Goals program, because the program is exactly 12 years old now. And it started with under 13, went to under 15, went to under 17, and then we had few regions that introduced under 20. Although now, after technical director advice, we took the under 20 away from the program so that we can introduce an under 11 group when the program kicks off, because of most players at under 20 that already graduates to the senior league. And then we have in the youth leagues of the program, we reach over 5,000 girls playing league football in the program. But then we reach through the program close to 30,000 through festivals, because festivals, you find many girls that actually plays only in festivals. they don't necessarily play league football, because league football is always season. And not many girls really commit to league, but they commit to the big events like the festivals. So when we do our data collection, we do festival counting and league counting. So that's how it is separated. Yeah. And in the national senior team, up till now, as we speak, they're in South Africa preparing for the qualifiers of CAF. And we have 14 senior national team players that plays in the senior team that has come from the project.
What does it mean to bring a program like this into the rural areas of Namibia?
This is also one of the values on which the program is based, is that we should be able to take the program to the areas where there is no mainstream football or no mainstream sports. And it's one of the areas we tick to say that we need to go to this community because there are issues that we need to address there. We have been like that for the first 5 years. We are looking at areas where there are higher HIV and AIDS infections, or also those areas where more younger girls are affected. Maybe they have lost their parents, or they are more, that's more or less more the rural areas. But the program has grown so much that now we are increasing communities of looking at areas of concern. We are looking now at areas of interest. But when we started the program, it was more about areas of concern. You take them to a smaller city, or you take it to a region, because in Namibia we speak about political regions, and within that region you target the main city, and from the main city the hope is that it snowballs into bringing in the smaller villages and communities, because that is what the project stands for, that we should not exclude any girl. So it's school-going girls plus those that are either drop out from school, but who doesn't make the school team maybe, but is in an after-school center. So it's so open as much as possible that your rural girl or your girl from informal settlements within the bigger towns can also be part of that, even if they don't make the school team, for instance. So the important area that we are looking at when you talk about taking the project to the rural areas is the fact that most of Namibia's talented kids in football or in sports in general are hidden somewhere. They are not necessarily in the city, because Namibia only has one city. People come to the city when there's an opportunity for studies, when there's an opportunity for job. And that alternative is there, that when you discover a little girl somewhere in a rural area because you took a sports program there or a festival there, that kid might make it to the big cities or the big towns for opportunity of scholarships to study or for a good job after playing for the national team. So of course, the program, you will see as we speak further, then what the program is looking at going forward is to make sure that the communities multiplies every year. That is actually the idea.
Jackie, what are the next steps of the Girls and Goals project?
As a football association, our strategic plan, we are in our third year now, because this is now the second time we have renewed a strategic idea of where we want to go. So we are in the third year of the next level of our strategic development. And that speaks to taking the program to the last 3 political regions that are left out of the 14, because we are in 12 already, 11 already, and we are in 14 communities. So we really want to take it to the remaining 3 regions. And that has been stopped, unfortunately, by COVID in 2020 and then earlier this year, because it's been very difficult of such a big program to try and be thinking that you will avoid COVID, because in a program like this, at once, the number is very high of the kids that comes together. So we've been very, very careful, and we've been using social media to rather communicate information and share the health information instead of playing leagues. And it's really, I know it's a lot of questions this morning on all the women football groups about what is happening to our program, when are we playing, but we have been very careful. And when we are introducing to the remaining 3 regions, we are looking at, first of all, making sure that we have the UNICEF Namibia support. Secondly, we are very happy to know that the World Football Association, FIFA, is allocating funding for youth girls development. We want to see how we can 100% maximize that, because that speaks to the league being played and administered, and that also helps our community committees and regional committees to be able to introduce the program in the region. But with the establishment of the whole project of health, education, training of coaches, sport to life training, and so on, we need our partner, UNICEF, or any other partners in that line to be able to continue to introduce the program the way we are doing now, because it's more than just football. And then when we are done with our 14 regions, all of them covered, we are looking at multiplying the communities in which the program will be delivered. This is a very long way of thinking, but it creates a lot of excitement, because you will no more only have one town or few villages around it, but you will now have this multiplying within the regions to many other communities, because that is where the need is for information, health sharing, information sharing, the sport to life training. There's more people that needs this.
How long will the Girls and Goals project continue? Are there any additional projects funded by any other external funders?
This is a type of a project or a program. We are actually already calling it a program because of the growth of it. This is a program that looks at constantly, like I said, taking it to the next community, because Namibia, being a vast country, around each one of the big, in the 14 political regions, there are a high number of villages and smaller towns. And because of the age groups we target, we try to avoid traveling from one region to the other region. We only allow the traveling of groups of the Girls Project when the national event takes place, because there's a national event at the end of every league season. And but then when you take it out from one town to the next community, then you have a lot of activity happening within the different communities around the big town. And that is what the program is looking at. You look at, for instance, a town like, let's say, Kailyn Swat in the south. That is where the program is. Now you want Arwap, Beersheba, Kois, all those smaller towns. Instead of girls traveling, it's not practical in this country, because then it means you have blown up budgets. You need lots of money to be able to. And then the safety issue, and you all know that Namibia rates among road accidents very high, so we really avoid for these girls to travel unless they travel for the trials, they travel for a national event, or they travel for the festival of their area. So we are dreaming of seeing this project in those smaller villages around the town. Once in a year they come together and then they travel to the big city, Windhoek, for the national festival. That's because the national festival is where we showcase, together with our partner UNICEF, all our FIFA programs, CAF programs. We showcase what the program concept stands for. And of course, the training of coaches, we want to do more. We have trained so far over 1,200 teachers and community-based coaches through this program. From our FIFA instructor, Jackie Shupanka, Ms. Stupa, Ms. Leonie Pancratz. These are the people that have walked around, making sure the technical part is taken care of course, of the lead instructor, Jackie Shupanka. And then we had SCORE Namibia, Master Raymond Fries, and his SCORE people that are partners to this program for the health education, that has done a great job in sport for development, leadership role, the youth leaders that have been trained. So we want to continue with that training, because people come and go. Because most people in these programs are volunteers, and most coordinators are either teachers or community-based people. So we have to do constant training. So as long as football exists, we want to continue with this.
If you're looking at the current Women's Soccer League, how many players from your program are participating in the Women's Soccer League?
Yeah, if the Girls and Goals program now is 12 years old, let's try and minus 2020, and we donate to COVID. 2021, of course, I think we don't need to repeat this. It's been very difficult for us to even kickstart because our partnerships needs to be renewed. There's a new way of doing things. But of course, with assistance from FIFA, we are looking also forward to start at least the league part of it. The Women's Super League is your supreme football league in the country. There are not only players playing there, but there are teams that are playing in the Girls and Goals League, whose senior players are playing in the Supreme League, the Super League, which is your premiership for women. We have the University of Namibia, the place that is played in the Under-19 League of the Girls and Goals, and their senior team plays in the Super League. Then we have the Right Way Football Club, who plays the Under-17, Under-15 in the Youth League of the Girls and Goals. The senior team plays in the Super League. It's a member of the Super League. We have the Tura Magic, the country's champion club, that plays the Champions League. The Under-17 and Under-20 has been playing in the in the Girls and Girls League. We have the V-Power Angels, one of the top 4 teams in the league. They have a junior team in the then we have the National Academy, which is the Girls Football Academy, where our under-17 national players comes from. They play with the 16-year and above in the Super League of the country. Then we have the Project Club. The project over the years established a club where players graduate from the Girls and Girls Project as elite players into a club of the project, which is the Girls and Girls Football Club. They've actually ended second in the Women's Super Cup this year. So if you now just look at those 5 clubs and you multiply them by maybe, let's say, at least 15 to 20 players per team, then you have already direct flow of development for these players from youth to senior. And then you have also all the other teams that are in the league. There is 1 or 2 players playing either for the school or for the academy. Yeah, of course, there's a lot still needs to be done for us to be able to establish the regional leagues, which is a little bit lower than the Women's Super League, because within the Women's Super League, players can already join at the age of 15, 16, but some of your top 4, top 5 teams are quite very strong. That's the reason why the regional leagues this year has been introduced, so that when players graduate from the Girls and Girls Leagues, that looks at mass participation. Not all of them can automatically go into the Super League. So the introduction of the regional senior leagues has come as a big blessing to us from our leadership, under the leadership of Ms. Monica Shapo, the Women's Football Association chairperson, through our women department now has established regional leagues. So which means if girls in Zambezi region of Namibia are done with the youth leagues, they don't need to go to the city or to Okahanga or to the east or to Erongo region to be able to be part of the Super League. Because the Super League looks at movement of players at this stage in Namibia. We don't do yet playoffs, and then you have to qualify for the Super League. We now look at movement of top players to the Super League teams. And if you come from a program like Girls and Girls, where mass participation is very important, not all the players then qualifies to the Super League. So the introduction of the regional leagues will now help us for our graduated big number girls to play in regional level, the senior league, and then the influx to the Super League is better insured and faster than this now. But we are very happy with the number of girls that are talented that has made it to the Super League.
Do you think there is enough development to get women into the leading positions in clubs, and especially into the Namibian Football Association?
In a month's time, in November, we are launching the Women Football Strategic Plan that includes all women football. We've been working for long now, like I said, 3 times, looking at upgrading our strategic plan for the youth program, which is the Girls and Girls, which is a very, very big program because it speaks to where the national players comes from. It speaks to where the top league players comes from. It speaks to where your coaches comes from. The referees that you see that are now FIFA referees has been young referees playing senior football, doing volunteer work for the youth program. At least 3 or 4 are now FIFA referees, and we've been focusing a lot on that project. So we now look at, with the help from FIFA, have been working for the whole year on a strategic development plan for the Football Association. This was very much administered by the Women Department, but we had a lot of collaboration and talk with the stakeholders in the government, our Secretary General, our leaders. We've been all involved in having this document ready. As we speak today, tomorrow is the last day to sign off the document and then launch it in November. Now, if I look clearly at the main areas that we focus on, our pillars within the strategic plan, we are looking at so many people that has been trained in the Girls and Girls program, with assistance from FIFA, UNICEF, our main partner, through GIZ has helped us a lot also in terms of training and establishment of the elite center. There are a lot of people that came through, the players that got scholarships through GIZ and studied hospitality. Some that become coaches, some become administrators. Where do we put them in if we don't have an idea as an association where they should go? Because not all of them only become professional players. We have few now, but a big number of them are trained coaches, trained referees. Not all of them makes it to the FIFA referee list. What then happens to them? So we have seen a lot of players, female players, that went to study because of the sport for development approach we have. They have qualifications. Some of them are lawyers, some of them are administrators, some of them studied in sports management, many of them now are even at master's degree levels. So which means we are losing them after the playing time if we don't have a plan here. So our plan always has been to try and see if the Football Association can then have a plan, and that is where our strategic plan is speaking to making sure that these players are kept in football. Of course, at the end, I think you know of all female sportswomen, we look at what's best for you after your playing time. But if football provides that career path, you can still find a high number of, at least out of 50, you can find 10 women that wants to become the national coaches. Because in Namibia, that has been one of the biggest challenges is that most of the female players, when they especially get tertiary qualification, after playing time, doesn't commit to a lot of investment in going to the highest level and highest batch of coaching. So most of them feels like it's a waste of time. And because out of all that, you can only employ 2 or 3 coaches. So most of the players will go for their honors, their masters, into banking or into administration, and then they get a good job. So with this plan, strategic plan that we're launching next month, and also with a lot of local memorandum of understandings with African Institute of Management in Sport, AIMS, that we have done now. There's a lot of direct studies in football now, and that will really help us a lot to, if you also look at the global strategy of FIFA, in developing women's football, there's a lot that players and coaches are looking forward to. So our plan is that not only for them to become coaches or referees, but we are looking at the little managers that we are picking up through all our trainings we have done. And those people could then, from management into leadership, graduate to be part of this game. But in Namibia, one of the very, very small populated countries, but very difficult for women to penetrate a very artificially blocked area of leadership in sports. But when we are qualified, when we have the system like we have, the women should get qualification, they should constantly improve themselves academically, and then they should commit themselves, like we have a coach like Coach Mamika Sauna. She commits herself to get that qualification. If you don't do that, forever that shielding will be there, and the artificial blockage will be difficult to break through. But it will not be difficult for anybody to ignore you if you have used what football is having now to improve yourself, and then this strategic plan speaks to that, creating those very strategic opportunities for women to get into the leadership. Yeah, but I don't see that happening overnight. I see it more, this plan will help us through that.
Jackie, thank you very much for your insight. Your resume is very impressive. It's lovely to have someone like you involved with the development of women's football in Southern Africa, and we really look forward to seeing how the Girls and Goals project goes from strength to strength, because the youth are our future.
Oh, thank you very, very much to Global Football Unite, right? Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to be able to speak about the Girls and Goals program, number one, and then for us to be able to also touch a little bit on the global strategy for women's football development. And I think your event now will help us to be able to encourage more women to be part of sports and part of football in this case. Yeah, thank you very much once again.
Our next speaker is Leonie Pancratz. Leonie is currently playing at Helsinki, but her story goes way beyond that. 10 years as a professional player at TSG Hoffenheim ladies team. I like to think of her as the foundation of the team that is now playing in the Champions League. Leonie is also a very unique international player, having played in 6 different countries. That's 6 different cultures. That's 6 different styles of football, 6 different languages. Incredible to be able to adapt and thrive in those environments. Leonie is a very passionate footballer and also prides herself on pushing herself and has a great background, great education. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say, Leonie. Leonie, you're going to be talking to us a little bit about the differences in culture and the sporting quality across the various leagues that you've played in across Europe. When it comes to the culture in those clubs and those leagues, what would you identify as the main differences?
Yeah, first of all, hello. I'm really excited to share some of my experience now in this summit. And yes, there are a lot of culture differences. And I think first is the style of play. So in the leagues, the style of play has been different. There have been leagues which are more maybe tactically, other leagues are more technically. There has been a rougher game or almost no body contact. And I think, for example, in Germany, it's a really tactical game. So you play as a team and you're really organized and structured and everybody knows what to do. And for example, in Finland, it's pretty much the same, but maybe a little bit more tactically. So the trainers, they are obsessed to win the opponent through the best tactic, and players are really intelligent. They really understand football. But maybe at the same time, there's missing a little bit the space for creativity. And then exactly this space you have in France. So the players, they are searching for a lot of one against one, and one player can decide a whole game with just one action. And when it comes to body contact, it has been a really rough game in Iceland. So a lot of long balls, a lot of body contact, fouls, tackling. But maybe I think it's also due to the environment, because most of the days have been really windy and rainy. So maybe it was an environment which made the game like this. And so, yeah, it's really different in way of how to play in every league. But then it's also when it comes to language. So, okay, normally every country has its own language, but it's not just the language, it's the melody of the language, or some languages sound maybe a little bit more happier, some languages sound a little bit more sad, even though there isn't a sad conversation. And for example, when I speak English, I feel a little bit different than when I'm speaking German or Spanish. So I think you get into a culture through its language, and it tells you so much about the country, about the culture, and about its people. So for me, it was always really important to learn the language as fast as possible. And then there are a lot of other differences coming to the food. So it's not just the dishes, but also the timetable. I was used when I went to Spain to eat dinner at maybe 6 or 7, because I was used to do it in Germany like this. But then suddenly dinner was at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And it was totally different to what I was used to. So the body has to get used to every of these changes. And sometimes it takes some time and you're not performing in the beginning. So it's really important that you don't stress yourself too much and you keep going and just give your body and yourself a little bit of time. And yeah, it's worth it to give a little bit of time for that. And then I think there have always been two options. So the one option is that you don't adapt to a culture, but it doesn't mean that you have failed as a player. It also means that maybe the club has failed, or your teammates or the trainers, because you should never forget that a foreign player lives so far away from his friends, his family, usual habits, that it's not always easy to feel comfortable in another country. So it's really important that every part makes a big effort that the player can adapt to this new country. And when it happens that you're going to adapt, culture can be so much fun, because now in Finland, we are making jokes, like I'm doing some exercises before the games. And for me, it's totally normal. And they are looking at me, but what are you doing? And I'm, yeah, another German stuff. So yeah, it can be a really fun difference of culture.
Through your career, when you see foreign players arriving in these various countries and leagues, what do you think were the challenges or the integration of those players into the clubs and into those leagues?
First of all, there have always been 3 steps. So the first step is you come to a new country and everything is cool because everything is new, and it doesn't even feel like your normal life. It feels more like holiday. So you want to get to know all as fast as possible. And then there comes the second step, where you suddenly are going to miss your friends, your family, your own culture, and you start to complain, and you also start to compare both of the cultures with each other. But then I think it's a really important point that maybe the way I am doing things isn't the right way, and maybe the other thing isn't the wrong way. So I mean, there's no right or wrong or better or worse. It's just different. And when you're going to accept that it's different, then you can adapt to this new culture. So yeah, 3 steps have been always in my case like this. And then I wouldn't say easier, but maybe faster. It was always when there weren't so many different cultures in the team, so you could adapt to the main culture. It was easier. To make some example, in France, we had players from 10 different countries, quite a lot, and not just from Europe, but all over the world. So you had more than maybe 10 different understandings how to play football. And I remember in the beginning, I was used to play as I played in my former team in Germany. And one of these things was to play the ball always in the space when it was possible, to make the game as quick as possible. But then suddenly all of these balls, they went out. And I did a bad pass in France, but maybe it hadn't been a bad pass in Germany. So it's really important that you're going to communicate to each other, and you create a philosophy for this team, for this club, so everybody knows what the other person is thinking, and you can fit together as a team. And then another fact is communication, as I said. So there's nothing worse than can't express yourself. That's what I said before. You have to learn the language. Because sometimes you have this, you want to say something, but you can't because the words are missing. And it makes you feel so dumb in a double meaning. And it puts you totally out of your comfort zone. But even in these situations, you have to stay confident. And I can tell all the players who are going to a foreign country, the more you experience this situation, the more you get used to it, and the less stupid you feel, and the more confident you feel. And then another point, I think in generally, you always have to integrate when you go to a new club. It doesn't mean that you go to another country. Maybe it's a club in another city, because you have to find your new role. I mean, some are starters, then there are players who are substitutes, there are players who maybe they don't play at all, but they are also important for the group to make big quality in the team. Then you have one captain, you have a second, but then maybe you have 20 other players who aren't the captain, but they also have to take this responsibility. And so it's really important that every player knows his role, and you don't see the players just as a player, but also as a person. And then you can create an own culture. And it was, for me, really important that I could be proud of the team. And can be proud can be maybe some empty words, because somebody tells you have to be proud of the team or of the club. But yes, what does it mean? And for me, it means that I can trust everyone, that this behavior and this team it fits to my comprehension of moral and values. And for example, for me, it's really important to respect each other, to have esteem. And I experienced as a player, when this happened in a team, then I was willing to give 100%, not just for myself, but for my teammates, for my trainer. Like my trainer, he didn't have to motivate me, because I wanted to win this game for him too. And then in the end, you're also proud of the club because you're part of this group.
How many African players did you have as teammates in your various teams that you played for?
I played with players from all over Europe, from Australia, Asia, North, Middle, South America. But I have to admit that I never played with an African player in my team. So I don't know why. I know that in France, they played some African player, mostly strikers, really fast strikers. And I also remember in Germany, there was a striker from, I think she was from Equatorial Guinea, and she scored more than 100 goals in the Bundesliga. So she was quite good, and I didn't like to play against her. And actually, I don't know. I think a lot more African players should play in the European leagues, because for them, it could be really attractive. But I think at the same point, for the European league, it could be really good, because the more foreign players play in a league, the more attractive it gets. And I think it's really important that in women football, we work really hard together and we learn from each other to improve our sport, as good as possible.
If we talk about the differences in payments across the various leagues that you played in, how high was the percentage of players who could only play football to make a living?
Okay, this is a good question. And I think maybe it's sad, but first of all, we should talk about the big majority which can't live from playing just football. And they have to go to work to earn another salary to survive. And then after the work, they have to go to training, and maybe they are tired because they work 40 hours a week. And then they have to be still motivated, and they have to improve, and they have to take care that they don't get an injury. I mean, it's really important that we make it more professional also to improve our sport. And then we as players, we have the possibility to improve ourselves, and we don't have to go to work and have maybe an hour, which are more than 60 hours a week. So yeah, really important. And then coming to the main question, I think like in France, it's quite professional in the way of salary. So maybe there are other things missing, like facilities, for example, but almost the whole squad was professional. The young players weren't, but yeah, normally it's like this. And in Germany, I would say the first teams, Bayern and Wolfsburg, they have a whole professional squad. In Hoffenheim, everyone was doing anything beside playing football, but it was also the philosophy of the club. So we had people who were going to study or study like long distance and school. In Portugal, it was really semi-professional, but it was 8 years ago. And I think the Portuguese league is in a good way right now. So at least they have started their journey. And for example, Benfica Lisbon, they qualified for the groups of the Champions League, which is a big achievement for the whole league. So really important to have also this success. And in Spain, it was quite professional, even though it was 11 years ago, so quite a long time ago. And I would say in Iceland and Finland, it's pretty much the same, that foreign players can live from it because the club pays a rental, and then you get a car if needed, and then you get an amount of salary, which it's possible for you to make your life in this country.
Looking at the current structure of women's professional football in Europe, how many clubs in the top 5 European leagues have got a full-time professional squad?
First of all, I think professional is not just the money. It's also if you have a good trainer. And there are a lot of clubs who have got a trainer, but he also has to go to work. But if you have a permanent trainer, a full-time trainer, then for you as a player, you can maybe train also in the morning and improve yourself. So really important that we also do professionalization in these kind of things. So I mean, facility, infrastructure, everything has to be more professional. And then, there are a lot of teams like in the French league, Paris or Lyon, they have a totally professional squad. Also in Germany, Bayern and Wolfsburg, as I said before. But then I think the English league is a really good example for all of us in Europe, because they are showing what can be possible with a good strategy and the right tools. And then also with the social recognition. It's really important that people are going to respect our sports and are going to respect women who are playing football. And I think we should see England as a benchmark and look what are they doing good, and then we have to copy it maybe a little bit and make women's sport more professional, because we're working so hard for this, and I think we deserve this respect and everything. And at the same time, there's something I would like to mention, because of course professional, make it more professional, everything like this, but at the same time I think we shouldn't forget about our education, because everybody knows that you can't play football your whole life, and maybe you have to stop it due to an injury, and maybe you're in the middle 20s, or you are lucky and you can play until 32 or 35 or maybe 40, I don't know. But then there's the point where the real life starts, and you get out of this bubble where you didn't have to care too much about anything regarding life matters. And the young players, they only want to be professional football player, and it's totally normal, and they have all the right to be it because they are working so hard. And I'm not blaming them for it, but I'm blaming the clubs and I'm blaming the agents because they have to take this social responsibility, at least in women's football, and offer us players any kind of self-improvement. Because we have a lot of trainings and everything, but we also have the time to invest in ourselves. And on the one hand, I'm so grateful that I can call football my job because it's my passion. But on the other hand, for me, it was always important to be prepared for the life after, because there's so much life rest after your career. And fortunately, there's so much life rest. So for me, it's a really important point that we focus also in education at the same time as focusing and make women football more professional.
Okay, Leonie, putting you on the spot here. Can you give us a current ranking of the top 3 to 4 leagues, and why are these the leading leagues?
First, I think now it's England, because as I said before, they invested a lot of money in the English league. They got a really powerful broadcast deal, really important. Then they have the social recognition, and they have the European Championship in 2022 next year. So it's also a really good tool to create more hype for women's sports. And they are showing us to everyone what can be possible with a good strategy. And then it's quite difficult because there are always leagues which have maybe the salary, but then the facilities are missing, or good trainers are missing. So it's really difficult for me to make a ranking. But for example, I would say Spain is also in a really good ranking place because they have Barcelona and they won the Champions League last year, and I played against them, and they are on a high level. So totally professional players, and they are awesome. And I think it's really good for the Spanish league too. And they also attract a lot of spectators. People in Spain, they are really passionate for football, for the club. So they also come to women football. And then in Germany, maybe this is missing, that there aren't so many people anymore in the stadium. But at the same time, Germany is really professional in the way of conditions, facilities. The pitches are really good, and then the trainers, they are really qualified. So really difficult to make a ranking, but I think we should learn from each other and put all the good things together and create it in every league and use all the advantages from the other league to implement it in our league maybe. So first of all, England, and then there's coming Spain, France, but Germany, but I don't know the ranking, really don't know.
Leonie, your enthusiasm, your passion, it's inspiring. I mean, I feel like I want to get up and play again. Incredible football journey. We're really thankful to have you involved in the summit. We look forward to your contribution going forward, and we wish you every success with your playing career. But I'm sure your career won't stop once you stop playing. We really look forward to seeing you going forward.
Thank you really much to be part of the summit, and all the best for you guys, and I hope you have fun in this summit, and maybe we will see each other on the pitch anywhere in the world.
Our next speaker is Salome Ayambo. Salome has a FIFA master's degree in management and in law. She is also a former national team player for the Namibian Brave Warriors, and she is currently a FIFA and CAF coaching instructor. Salome, it's lovely to have you with us here today. Salome, could you give us insight in how you got the opportunity to do the FIFA Masters and graduate, and how that will work for your future work in football?
Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be here. I'm really excited to be talking not only to you, but to the listeners from all over the world. Women's football, or football in particular, is something that is very dear to my heart, having been an athlete and, pursuing a sport course, a global one that is, and finding myself in a global institution, the number one global institution in the world that govern the number one sport in the world, being FIFA, and very excited to be the very first women's football officer appointed in the world. It couldn't have come easier, but because of the FIFA master that has provided me with a foundation to prepare me, to give me the fundamental soft and hard skills required to enable me to be proactive in the sport industry, and also to give me the right knowledge and tools to understand and cope with any other situation that sport brings about. We have just witnessed the pandemic, when it just emerged, and now we are in it. We have survived. I can assure you that a lot of many other FIFA Master graduates who were prepared in the same manner as me have taken key decisions within their organization, because the course have really prepared them already to overcome this type of situations, even if they were not known. So it's a very supportive system. It's a shared knowledge approach. You get the best, and I can tell you that is one of the best networking, one of the best educative course that you can ever find. I mean, who would give you a course that is given in 3 different countries, 3 different universities, with a multicultural awareness, international environment, people from all over the world that just bring, massive ideas, different experience and opinions together and make you learn in a platform that never existed. So it has really prepared me and given me this opportunity to engage with the like-minded people, diverse cultures, and, different shared knowledge. We might all play football, but it might be different in Namibia, in Europe, in Asia, and all over the world. So yes, it has prepared me well.
What project, what regions will be the focus of CAF for the short-term future?
Thank you very much for that very nice and fair question. I am a representative of Africa. I've played football on the African continent, and now I find myself working in an international organization that have to look after all other members all over the world. CAF is a very key stakeholder to FIFA, for example. And the aim of all these organizations is to ensure that we empower, we educate, and we give opportunities to athletes to showcase their talent, and not only athletes, but all other officials involved in the game. So having said that, CAF has just introduced a new competition, for example, for women, that is the CAF Women Champions League, that has taken place this month with the finals to take place November this year. So already it tells you that the focus of CAF cannot only be staged in one area of the continent, but they have a mandate to oversee the development of football in all sphere of the game within all its corners. So that is about bringing quality, effective, and sustainable leagues. That is developing all other officials, being referees, coaches, technical directors, administrators, and so forth. It's just to ensure that more development is given from an MA level, that is member associations of CAF, from the zonal level, that is the different zones that are divided within the CAF continent or within the continent of Africa. And of course, ensuring that once they have competed or they have educated, they have developed, they have capacitated these individuals, they can then showcase on a continental level before they can go to the global level. So I would say that CAF would really have to cover all corners of the continent, and making sure that the imbalances of be it performance, be it development, be it capacity building in terms of its officials, and all those that are touched and practice this sport in different roles, really get an opportunity to develop in whatever they do. So it will be the entire continent, and that is development and opportunities for all.
Salome, how do you see the role of African players who make it into the European leagues? What is their role in terms of awareness and motivation to boost football in Africa?
You know, all the African players that have made it to other leagues and not only European leagues really have a task, you know, to do back home or to give back. But first and foremost, they are role models. They have showcased that they are great ambassadors of the game from the African continent or representing the African continent. They are great warriors. When they're on the field, you can tell that, yes, there is impact. Their performances speak volume. You can follow statistics day in, day out, every weekend. They have been doing great. Of course, they are great role models, but they first have a responsibility, that is to fulfill their desire to play, to perform, to be consistent, to showcase their talent as they have been doing it, to fulfill their dreams. Once they have fulfilled their dreams and really make sure that those that are within their supporting system are happy with what they do, in the process, they inspire others. They have been doing that. They also help develop the game in their own rights. I mean, some of them have got strongest point. Not too long ago, everybody knows the great story of Didier Drogba when he united the nation that was fighting through football. And not only that, you find that the likes of Oshaola, the likes of Barbara Banda, and all other players that have made it on a global continent, they come back home and they create this, you know, not only foundations, but they also sponsor leagues. They also, you know, they assist in so many ways. It's about giving back. They help boost those young girls within the African continent and young boys as well. They look up to them. Gone are days where young athletes will now start playing football and all they talk about is Messi and Ronaldo. We are trying to ensure that we create superstars from us, among us, and we look up on them and not always to take somebody else that is from far. Of course, there are some great players that we cannot deny, but I can assure you that the African continent have done that. Every young boy would want to be Mane. Every young girl would want to be Oshaola. Every young athlete coming up would is inspired to be the Desiree Ellis type of coach. As we have just seen, if you follow women's football, what happens between South Africa and Nigeria, in Nigeria during the cup that have just ended. So they have a task. They have been doing it. They do come to the party. They are role models. They do inspire. They give back a lot. You have also read and followed how all these athletes are coming back and really upgrading not only the sporting aspect of the game in Africa, but also the social, means the health sector. We also know how Mane is assisting government to build hospitals in his own country. And many other athletes are doing that at their level. And we only appreciate, and it helps boost the game. It gives even our political will the understanding that you don't need to be a doctor to be successful. You can be a sporting personnel, you can be a footballer and be able to give back to your community, something that will be appreciated on, larger margins.
Do you see or are you aware of any European clubs who are doing partnerships with the Women's Soccer League in Namibia or with Sasol League clubs in South Africa? Because this is happening with some of the men's teams in Africa.
Yes, of course, this is something that is now coming over a lengthy period of time, that European clubs would find synergy with mostly not only clubs in Africa, but perhaps nations. You also watch EPL and you see Visit Rwanda on the Arsenal shirts, for example. It goes bigger than just a club. They have synergies with the entire country to be able to also put us on the map, even though you also saw the Visit Rwanda PSG sponsorship deal that is also to help promote tourism. We have seen the Barca Foundation, we have seen the Real Madrid and many other clubs. It's something that speaks volume. In my own country, for example, when I played for a very famous club back then, Okahanja Beauties, we had partnership with many of the female clubs in Germany. So this does not only end at having that, but it gives a lot of development to the game. It's about exchanging our players. Sometimes it's those opportunities that even when you see a COSAFA tournament, we have partnered now with La Liga, where you find that certain officials come and scout African players because of these partnerships that are there. And it does not only end there. It's not always about giving hard cash to say we invest, but investment come in different ways. And these partners and synergies are really working, and they have helped us. And we have seen the likes of most of our athletes going. Zenata Coleman is one of the star player in Namibia. She's showcasing her game in Spain. She have moved between 3 clubs now, and it's a benefit that have been birthed from this type of connections and partnerships.
Salome, you've got a huge role to play in African women's football. We look forward to all your wisdom and your knowledge. That FIFA master's degree will definitely come in handy in terms of helping us take African women's football to the next level. We wish you every success, and I'm sure on behalf of all the speakers, all the panelists, everyone watching, we fully support you in all your activities in taking women's football to the next level.
Well, it's pretty much simple, but simple to say, but difficult to implement. It's not something that comes overnight. The key word is empower, more development, and create opportunities. In Africa, it has been shown, it's evident that talent is enormous. It's all over. And I am one example that I never played in any youth structures, for example. I joined a national team when I was already 23. You can already imagine that, the mastering stage of skills, for example, was already past, but one is still able to showcase and do something that is significant at that level. So when we empower those that are within the game, for them to really have the knowledge and skills to pass on to the young ones, it starts with grassroots, it goes to youth. And once we have all these well-structured platforms, our players will be able to grow, understand, and know the game better. They'll be able to participate with different mentality. Football is not about how skillful your foot is. Sometimes you play with your mind. It's knowing when to pass the ball, where your opponent, it creates awareness of all situations of the game. So for women football really to be boosted in Africa, and to ensure that even the international bodies mission, or which is making football truly global, and ensuring that what opportunities exist in one part of the world can also be found in others, and that will also limit certain movement, or perhaps we can attract Europeans coming to Africa to play in our leagues. As they always say, we are very physical, but it's a good thing. So it's to ensure that we have to create opportunities at all levels, and for all those that are involved in the game, we need to focus on development and sustainable leagues. We need to ensure that the pathway is set and it's so clear, and the opportunity is given to all to be able to pass through that sieve of knowledge and that sieve of skills, for them to be able to go with what is best and to showcase at a high level. So it's all about us that need to create awareness. We need to come up with great opportunities. We need to create capacity building. We need to develop the game in all aspects of football. And we also need to ensure that we change the mindset of those individuals who believe women football is second best or it's not important. One day we'll be able to see, perhaps, who knows, my dream is always to say an African female team has got a potential to win a world title before any men's team does on the continent. And that is what I wish to see.